Welcome back to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs YouTube channel. I'm Greg Sykes along with my co-host Brandon Scott. And in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what I've been talking about, trading a few folks here and there. What we think about that, and also a little bit about the upcoming Eagles game. As you can tell, I'm just stumbling over my words because I am just so excited. But we're going to go over some key players in this game this time because, as what Brendan and I talked about right before this video, apparently the team doesn't seem to listen to us with our keys to the game. So we're just going to stick to what we think will be our key players to the game. So, with that said, folks, if you're enjoying this channel, please consider subscribing. And when you do, make sure you hit that notification bell. It's very important because I release these videos often in the evenings, in the mornings. I do try to do live stuff. You know, Brandon and I will try to do some live stuff in the afternoons as well when we can. So we're trying to bring anything and everything to you, so you're going to want to tune in to us. With that said, Brandon, let's roll into this one, buddy. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's been in the news. And I did a video on this, and I know that some of the other podcasts have been talking about this as well. But the rumors, concerning trading of Montez Sweat. There hasn't really been, and I will say I haven't been around social media today much, but I was looking at it a little bit more yesterday. There's been a lot of, well, I won't say a lot, but there's been some interest in Montez Sweat. Hasn't really been a lot of interest in Chase Young. But I'm sure if the price is right, maybe that there could be some interest. There's a mystery team that came out and said, hey, we are interested in Montez Sweat. We didn't really hear about as far as, the terms of what that trade offer was, but we did later hear that the Commanders are asking for a second, maybe a third rounder for either Montez Sweat or Chase Young. Now, I said in the other video, and folks, you can find that video. I think I entitled it something like Mystery Team Wants the Sweat or something like that, or Wants Sweat. And I talked about what I would do if I'm the Commanders. And personally, what I said was, if it's a straight up second round pick for next year, I'm willing to make a deal. If it's a third round pick, I feel like something else needs to be, the deal needs to be sweetened a little bit. Yeah. Now, of course, I said we need a good offensive lineman. Now, maybe that's asking for a little too much, but we need another player. We need a player if it's just going to be a third rounder. Because the thing is, all right, my words are not coming out, but the pick that you get when the players sign with another team in free agency.
Compensatory pick.
Thank you for spitting that out. I think that those picks were going to be worth probably at least a third rounder for these guys anyway. So it would make no sense for either Chase Young or Montez Sweat to be dealt for anything, lower than that. So by saying that, I feel like a third round pick and something else along with that, either maybe like a seventh round pick or something like that, might be okay. Second round pick, I'm a little bit more like, okay, I think that's a good enough trade. Now, what I would do personally at this point, because both players seem to be playing really well, and actually, from what I'm hearing, Chase Young is grading out a little bit better. Yeah. It's kind of hard to believe, but he is. I would be okay, trading Montez Sweat and keeping Chase Young. I'm not saying that because I'm a huge Chase Young fan, but I am a huge Chase Young fan. But I don't want to lose either. In the best case scenario, we keep both. But Brandon, um, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to throw it to you. Um, in your in your case, you're the front office. We're coming down to the wire. We got to the end of this month to make a decision if we're going to do any trades. Who are you trading away if you feel like we need to start a big fire sale and we're going to start it with who's that name going to be?
I'm gonna roll with Sweat, and I have a couple reasons why. I've always believed that we were gonna pay all four. I think if you look at the bookends, I thought we were going to have to choose one of the two because I think yeah, best case scenario, you want to have four first round picks who are productive on your defensive line. Obviously, is the best case scenario, but we have other holes that we obviously need to fill next year.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive line is definitely that hole I'm looking at. So I mean, you're gonna have to throw some money into maybe one or two linemen. Considering if you look at the contracts of Wiley and Gates, can you get out of those? I mean, because in my opinion, they haven't been very productive. So we'll see how they do with that. But it's Sweat because if you look at Chase Young, I think that you can get a hometown discount due to his injury concerns. I think with Chase Young, the organization has all the leverage. They can kind of give him a lesser contract due to the injury concerns, and maybe throw in incentives in there. Uh, sack milestones, stuff like that to make it sweeter. But I think that because Montez Sweat is going to be at a premium. I mean, we're going to have to pay to keep him, and if you
Mm-hmm.
combine that with the contract we have for Deron Payne, the contract for Jonathan Allen, we still have to throw. I mean, do we re-sign Cam Curl? That that's we need money for that. So there's still holes we need money for in the offseason, especially if we're going to rebuild, retool. So yeah, I'm rolling with Sweat because, like I said, he's going to come at a premium. I mean, we're gonna have to spend some cash to keep him because he's a hot commodity right now, and I think that the likelihood is going to be him because people are kind of concerned with the injury history of Chase Young, and like you said, you can argue that he's the best guy on the D line this year. He's shown a lot of burst, a lot of speed, a lot of energy. Really, if you look at the top 10 most active defenders right now, he's in the top 10 list. I mean, he's looked good. Not that the rest haven't, but as a unit, they've been very underwhelming and very inconsistent. So, yeah, I'm definitely rolling with Sweat, man. And it's a hard decision because anytime you have a front line, defensive line that all first rounders who are very productive, you know, you definitely want to keep them intact. But that's the thing, though, that are kind of going into is that we've been inconsistent. Do you really want to overpay for inconsistency when you can use that money to fill all the holes, especially the O line? Because if Sam Young, Sam Howell is the quarterback of the future and in the present, you've got to solidify this offensive line. And that
Yeah.
really, to me, that is the first round pick should be a left tackle, in my opinion. I mean, if you got to throw a second rounder on an offensive lineman, but the emphasis has to be the O line, man, because we have receivers, we've got running backs. Linebacker, you could say is a number two, in my opinion. But we have other holes to fill. Because me personally, like I already mentioned it, man, I'm trying to throw some money at Cam Curl and keep him around. So, and maybe we need to add another corner, maybe a shutdown corner number one. So I'm rolling with Sweat. I think we can get the most back for him. Looking at what kind of assets I'm looking at. Yeah, second round, I'm definitely saying yes. Third round, I'm with you. Third or fourth round, I'm asking for a player, whether it's an O line, maybe a young player, maybe at the linebacker position, maybe you can
Yeah.
develop.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely trying to get asset in player and draft pick. So I'm with you, man. I think that Sweat needs to be the guy to go. Like I said, I like both of them, man.
I do
But
too. Yep.
if you got to choose, I think we have more leverage with Chase, and that's what I'm rolling forward with, man.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you on all points. And I think what's interesting is the fact that there has been no communication at all between the Chase Young camp, the Montez Sweat camp, as no negotiations whatsoever. And so I don't know what, read into that what you will, but, you can only speculate. Is that because the coaching staff in the front office knows that they're not going to be here next year? So what's the use in trying to reach out to them?
Yeah,
Or are they willing to get rid of them both, which I think would be unwise? I think you got to
yeah,
keep one of those guys.
yeah,
Um, so it's very interesting the fact that they're not, they haven't really been communicating with both camps, but they may also were thinking up to this point that possibly we'll wait till mid-season, see how Chase Young is doing, and we'll see how Montez Sweat is doing, and then maybe we can trade one of those guys, and then it will make it a lot easier, decision at the end. Okay, obviously we're going to try to keep you, because on the other side we can rotate in, like Casey Toohill, James Smith Williams, guys like that, or we can go and draft somebody else, and not miss a beat. Which I will say, just a quick thing with this: Casey Toohill has 2 sacks in that Atlanta game, and then they reward him by only giving him 10 plays against the Giants. That I don't get, but still, it's interesting how the Washington Commanders are handling this. And honestly, I really feel like that if there's going to be a deal done, that should be done before the Eagles game. But who knows? Maybe they wait and decide they're going to try to use the services of both the best they can in that game, and then afterwards on Monday, one of them's gone, and that could be it. And I'm with you. I think we need to also be able to re-sign guys like Cameron Curl. Definitely got to re-sign guys like that. But I don't see guys like Fuller back,
No,
honestly.
no, no.
So and there's going to be a lot of big changes. So, talking about players, we're going to shift gears and we're going to go into this weekend's game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, obviously, for folks, we have been talking about our keys to the game in the last few weeks. And it seems to be a little repetitive because we're talking about the same thing. We're saying you guys got to run the football. You got to protect Sam Howell. You got to not have him taking 6 and 7 step drops. Just roll him out a little bit more and stuff like that. We're not going to talk about that because obviously, Eric Bieniemy's, he's going to do what he thinks is best, and I get that. But at the same time, we're going to talk about who's going to be the key, offensive key, defensive key. So Brandon, we're going to talk about the offense. Who's going to be the offensive key to a victory for the Washington Commanders, and then after that, give me your defensive key.
Ooh, that's nice. Right before I do that, man. Real quick, something I want to throw at you about what we were just talking about. Looking at the free agent list next year, if you look at if they really want to be crafty, I would still get value for one of these guys. But if you look at the and get assets, and then look, if you look at the list, you got Sweat next year who could be a free agent, Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter, Chris Jones, and then you have Nick Bosa. So you got a whole new front office, man. And I'm saying, the new front office trying to come in and make a bang. If you can get assets and still pick up, get Sweat back, because usually you kind of see this in baseball. The Nationals were supposed to do it with Bryce Harper with Houston, where it would trade him, get assets, and then still sign them back. It's rare, but it happens. You see it in sports. I think you try to do that. Get assets while you can, and then if you could try to throw money this offseason and get a premium guy, have assets, and still cake and eat it too. I think that should be an option with the front office if they really want to be crafty. Looking at Philadelphia, and it's tough to look at Philadelphia right now because Philly I think they just traded for a free an all pro free safety.
The rich get richer.
I mean, we said it all off season long, Greg, that all roads go through Philly, especially for the division, maybe the NFC. Period. I think the 49ers might have something to say about that, but Philly is definitely going to be a pest, man. So spotlight player on offense is going to be a tie for me. It's going to be first Brian Robinson Jr. I think the more touches, the more successful that we're going to be. I think that we can because if you look at one game I'm going to highlight 2 years ago when we were the Washington football team, when Tom Brady and the Bucs came to FedEx, nobody gave us a chance to win that game. We controlled the clock. That fourth quarter, they didn't even get the ball in the fourth quarter. Time management. If we can get Brian Robinson Chris Rodriguez, Antonio Gibson, get them active in the run game, man. Control the clock, and that's where the defense comes in. They do their thing. I think we have a chance, man. Now, we'll get a prediction, but the other play I'm looking at, man, is Jahan Dotson. He's got to get active. We need another weapon in the receiving corps, man. Terry McLaurin, he always gets most of the attention, but Curtis Samuel, he does well, but I think that for this passing game to really come to fruition, Jahan Dawson's got to step up. He's got to get involved. Because and half of that is really, Eric Bieniemy, getting him involved, getting plays, drawn up for him to get involved. But Jahan's got to be able to show up in those big moments, man. Make those big catches. You can say the same thing about Logan Thomas and a few other people, but Jahan's what we're looking at because he was that guy that we predicted to break out. So, people are saying, what's going on with Jahan, so it's still early. We're getting close to the midway point, but I think if we want to go and get momentum into the second half of the season and really see where we're at, Jahan Dotson has to get involved.
All right. And I'll say on offense for me, you always go for your bread and butter, the guy who, is your playmaker, and it's Terry McLaurin. I think Terry McLaurin has a big day. You always have a chance, no matter who is behind, who's under center, because we know Eric Bieniemy is going to go away from the run, no matter if we're leading or if we're behind by 18 points. So knowing that Terry McLaurin is going to have a big game if we're going to have a chance, and that is who I think is going to be the key of the game for offense. So now, defense. Who do you think is going to be the key to lead that defense?
Man, and this is going to be a tie too. It's tough. On the one half, I'm going to say Jamin Davis. He's got to be able to be that spy, man. Not only for Jalen Hurts, but if you look at the weapons they have, Dallas Goedert, the tight end, is going to be somebody that the linebacker core is going to have to take a look at. DeAndre Swift, man, he's a running back who, he can gain on the ground, but he's also a passing threat. So Jamin Davis is going to have to get active in as far as pass coverage, and he's got to wrap people up, man. He's got to make those key tackles. The other half would be St. Juice, man. Kendall Fuller, obviously, your number one. We don't know what we got yet, how many snaps that Emmanuel Forbes is going to get. Obviously, they want to see what they have, and you're going to start to see a lot more snaps for him as he gets his confidence back. But I'm going to see, St. Juice has a lot to prove, in my opinion, because, if he bounces back, maybe he's here next year. But I believe that really Forbes is your guy next year because I don't see your top two corners on this team next year. St. Juice has just been very underwhelming. And Kendall Fuller, he has played well, but he's not a number one corner. So, whether we go in the draft and go get a number one corner, but I do believe we need to shut down number one corner. So St. Juice, I'm looking at him. I definitely think that he needs to bounce back because they're going to have their hands full. I mean, like I said, just from the passing game period, DeAndre Swift, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas got it. So, I mean, they're going to have their hands full, man. So that would be my defensive focus, those two players.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get creative and say that, because this is going to be such a underdog story that somehow Emmanuel Forbes comes back and has this magnificent day and he makes the game-winning interception and all that stuff, and he becomes, the player of the game and all that. And really, the secondary needs to be able to shut down the big play. But as good as Jalen Hurts is, a lot of times he's really good because he doesn't get a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And I've seen when he does get pressure, it does get to him. It does rattle him. So I think a key to a game, honestly, is getting to him. And yes, you still need a spy because he's going to beat you with his legs. But I think as Chase Young continues to improve, I think he's got something to prove. And I think this could be a breakout game for Chase Young. I don't know why I'm thinking this, but he always seems to play well against the Eagles. And I know it was Carson Wentz, but when he played against the Eagles last time, he gave Carson Wentz nightmares. And I think if Chase Young can get into the backfield and get into the head of of Jalen Hurts, that could kind of even the score a little bit. So
Yeah.
I think there's, putting pressure from Chase Young, I think could be a key to the game. But I also agree with you. It's hard to just have one player as a key to
Yeah.
the game. Uh, but yeah, I think probably a close second would be whoever is going to step up and make a play in the secondary. That's a big key as well. So that said, we're going to get to prediction time, our favorite time of the video. Brandon, what is your prediction?
It pains me, man. It pains me, but this before I say my prediction, there's several reasons why I have this prediction, man. This O line scares me. This O line is
Mm-hmm.
just a liability. We're approaching that record that David Carr had with the expansion team, Houston Texans. This O line is a liability, and you best believe Philadelphia is going to blitz left and right. So I see this offense is going to have a tough time. I think the defense is going to hang in there. I think they're going to have a bounce back game, but my prediction is going to be 35-21 Philadelphia Eagles. And like I said, it pains me. But I'll say this: one of their touchdowns is going to be a defensive touchdown.
Ooh, one of the Eagles'
No,
touchdowns,
oh no,
or
one
one
of
of
ours. I
one of
hope not. Not
ours.
the Eagles. Not one
Okay.
of ours.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I would say, judging by as futile as our offense was last week, I don't see them coming out and being as fruitless. So I think they
Yeah,
do score more points. They're able to score points against this Eagles team last time, so we already know they can move the ball on this Eagles defense. Even
yeah,
though, the Eagles, they signed another corner. They're trying to get stronger. Um, Still, I think the Eagles, they're going to sweep us this year because it just feels like it's their year. It pains me to say that because I am not a Nick Sirianni fan at all. I think he's boastful.
yeah.
I can't stand him, but he's perfect for the Philadelphia Eagles. He is. He's perfect coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's got them playing really good football. So I think the Eagles are going to take this one easily. I think it's going to be 31-17. And I think they're
Okay.
going to pull away in the third quarter. I think things will be fairly close, but I think in the third quarter you're going to start to see them pull away. It's going to be easy victory for the Eagles. Thank you guys for joining us on this one. Please, honestly, like, subscribe, share. And with that said, I will see you in the next one.